All right, perfect.
What up, YouTube? I'm back at it again. It's your boy Vesty Vest, and today I'm sitting here with my boy Shaun Howard. Man, Shaun, how you been?
I've been really good, Sylvester. It's nice to be back with you here in California.
I know, man.
Nice, cool weather today, but
cool weather, man.
Great weather.
Yes, sir. So we go way back, right? Case days. I remember we met in one of the freshman classes. I think it was calculus. Do you remember first time we met?
Yeah, I think we were looking at each other like going, "What's the answer to this quiz?" for Chris Butler's math
Chris
class.
Butler's class, yes. Yeah. Man, oh man.
He had those daily quizzes in the morning.
Those daily quizzes, man.
As soon as you come in, you don't even have your caffeine in your system yet, and he's throwing a pop quiz at you, and you only have like a minute or two to finish it.
Yep.
And those TAs are like, "All right,
walking around,
looking at each other like, what's the answer?" Man?
Yes, sir. Man, those brings back memories, huh?
Yeah, I mean, we went from there to here, and we made it through all of that stuff. And
yeah.
I mean, yeah, I think that's where one of the first classes we met each other.
It's been more than a decade, man. Right? Because that's like 2012. Yeah.
We started there, 2012.
2012, and look at us right now.
2023 now.
2020 freaking
We were
three.
praying for this moment.
I know, man. Man, oh man. So you decided, freshman year. I know. So when you were coming in, had you already decided that you were going to study computer science?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to do computer science basically since high school.
Okay.
For years I was into computers. I was doing IT work. I actually had my own startup doing IT, like fixing computers. So, going in, I knew I wanted to do something with computers, computer science. I was looking at all the jobs out there at the time. I mean, big companies like Intel and NVIDIA, even, and companies like that were hiring computer science.
Okay.
And they wanted bachelor's of science degrees. So every time it was like, do I really want to get this BS degree? And it was like, looking at the jobs out there, I was like, yes, I do, because anything without that degree, you're not going to make nearly as much. You're not going to have nearly as much success. I mean, unless you really pave your own way.
Yeah.
So I wanted to have that Bachelor of Science, but then I also wanted to study AI, artificial intelligence.
Yes, sir.
That was something I really loved growing up. I loved to see the technology, the robotics, all those kind of aspects of things.
Okay.
So I really knew, like, going into from high school on, I was like, I want to do computer science, AI. Wasn't sure exactly what.
Yeah.
And I still am like, there's so many possibilities out there.
Okay.
But I kind of knew from the beginning of like, this is the path I want to go down. I don't know where it's going to lead to, but
I feel you, man. So you said BS degree, and I mean for the college guys, bachelor's of science. But I mean, if you can also think about it, because these days a lot of people are paving their own way and starting YouTube channels and selling online and all that stuff, right? So for those guys, the BS could even stand for bullshit degree,
That's that's what I was thinking even at the time. I'm like, is this just BS? But because you learn all the science, the physics, the chemistry, even you got to go through like the chemistry materials.
Exactly right, man. Chemistry, I remember I had to take chemistry twice. I mean, chemistry seems like magic to me, man.
Yeah.
Like, I understand physics, biology, all these classes because, there's this logic behind them, But chemistry, like I could not get chemistry, man.
Even for computer scientists major, it was like mind-blowing to me.
Man, oh man. So yeah, I mean, so what state are you originally from?
So I'm originally from Pennsylvania.
Pennsylvania.
And so I've come a long way.
Yeah.
But it was like my dream from an early age to come out to the warm sunshine and the palm trees.
Yeah.
Be able to basically drive, if not walk, to the ocean.
Yeah.
Stuff like that.
Yeah, man.
I love the beach.
Yep. Freshman year, you always talked about the beach and all that. Man, oh man.
Paradise City, man.
You are living your dream then, man.
Yeah.
My goodness.
Like, a couple miles away from the beach here, Marina Del
Man,
Rey.
that's amazing, bro. To how far we've come, and to see you realize, realize a great deal of the dreams we talked about back at freshman year. So you said you're from Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Case is not a very popular school, right?
Right.
So I'm not quite sure. Like, how did you hear about Case when you were still in high school?
Well, that's a funny story. So I was into physics and robotics at the time in high school, and I was looking through different schools that were doing engineering, that were the top engineering schools.
Yeah.
And obviously you go in from the U.S. News, they're reporting, they have like, you know, the ranks from 1 through N basically. And so I was going from the top school, I'm like, nope, can't afford that. Nope, can't afford that. Like Harvard, Yale.
Yeah.
So you got that real small percentage to get in. So, I mean, I applied to these top schools and everything, but then I was like, okay, let's be more realistic. And I was going through, and one of the schools nearby was Lehigh University, and they're a top ranking university, well known for engineering.
Yes, sir.
I had some friends who went there, and they kind of just bragged about like, oh, my family went there and this and that, and they have these great jobs and big houses and stuff. Anyway, long story short, Case Western was like a very similar school, but they were in Ohio, and honestly, that was like the last school I applied to.
Yeah.
You know, I applied to the Vanderbilts and the Yales and all of them.
You got there,
and then
right.
I got like the last one, and I think it was a free application even too, was Case Western. And actually what triggered me to apply there was that I was watching a video on physics and like metaphysics and all kinds of like spirituality and like how your soul might not be necessarily connected to the matter of your body and all that kind of stuff.
Oh, wow.
And there was a physics guy with a PhD, and I think he was maybe an adjunct professor at Case Western, did research at Case Western with them. And this was back in like 2011, 2012 time frame. So I don't even know if the guy, what he's doing now, but back then he was talking about Case Western and the lectures and how they were doing this research, and I was super interested in it. So I was like, and then that was when I put in my last application for Case Western. I was like, I didn't apply to that school, and I took a look.
Yeah.
It was like a top ranking one right near Lehigh.
Yeah.
And it was like they give good grants and stuff for financial aid, and it's pretty close. It was in Ohio, so it was only one state over, not too far. I did want to kind of get out of Pennsylvania and see the world a little bit.
Yes, sir.
So long story short, basically I applied there. I was accepted. They gave me a huge grant, a great financial aid package for my circumstances. And I don't know, end of the road, I ended up choosing it.
Amazing, man.
So,
amazing story, bro. And I think, you know, the first physics guy that received the Nobel Prize in physics was actually from Case. The Michelson and Morley experiment, if you've heard about that, you know, one of the guys from that experiment actually was the first U.S. Scientist to win the Nobel in physics.
And as I did more research on Case Western, I noticed things like that. I was like, oh, I think there was an engineer from Ford that developed like the windshield wiper there in the 1960s and stuff like that. And then I was like, oh, Donald Knuth from computer science and all of those like algorithmic techniques and stuff. He went to Case.
I know.
He pioneered like a lot of computer science algorithms that we know them today.
The guy who made Gmail, man.
The guy who made Gmail.
Went to Case. Craigslist, the guy who also went to Case.
And then we went to visit, and the founders of Yelp were there giving a tech talk.
Are
for,
you
like,
serious?
The Hacker Society in like that 2012 timeframe.
Yeah.
They had just started Yelp like a year or two ago. And they were talking about Yelp, and my parents are going like, Yelp? Huh, that's like a dog bark, you know, what kind of name is that? And then here it is, I don't know if it's multi-million or billion at this point, but it's a humongous company, everyone knows it. Everyone's got to have that app. They bring all the businesses out there, and you know, that's like the go-to now. But back then,
it didn't seem like much.
Going to a tech talk as a prospective student, it was cool to me, but it was like, you know, I didn't even realize how big that moment was.
Yeah.
So.
And I remember one of the highlights moments for me was when Steve Wozniak came to campus and gave a talk.
Yeah. I mean,
Case was actually a decent school, man. So
the
computer science classes that you took, do any of those professors, you know, stand out to you? One guy that you could say, man.
Of course, we got Harold Kahnemocker.
Harold Kahnemocker, man, for Intro to Java. My goodness, what a professor that guy is.
You know what's kind of ironic too is that a lot of his teachings, and then Vincenzo Liberatore, with software craftsmanship and all of that, a lot of those teachings I'm using currently in my job and my career. I'm a tech lead at a company right now, and that's for one of my clients, and I'm leading at least 30 different individuals, and we have very strict software craftsmanship principles and things like that.
I see.
And now I have them telling me how it is. If I don't have a comment on something,
are you serious?
They give me the feedback. It should be like this. I'm like, I'm the one who created these standards.
Man, that's funny.
No, seriously, like
that's
some of those
funny.
classes really had an impression on my career. And some of them, you didn't use, like material science stuff.
Yeah.
It's interesting, but
I feel like a lot of the gen eds, classes were just to weed out a lot of the students, who wanted to go into the hard sciences.
Switched over, and you could tell those people, they're not out here with us so much.
Exactly,
the
man.
People who pursued through that group of people, you see them coming out, no problem. They have fun, they have free time. They work hard, play hard. So.
Work hard, play hard, man.
Yeah.
So yeah, I know. After bachelor's degree, you decided to do your master's also at Case.
Yes, I did.
Was there a particular reason why you chose to do your master's at Case as well? Because a lot of people, want to explore after they've had their bachelor's degree, maybe go to a different school, be at a different environment, be exposed to different professors, different ideas, but you chose to do yours at Case. What was your reason for doing so?
Yeah, so it was, first of all, it was an easy transition.
Okay.
I basically started doing some of the coursework while I was still doing the bachelor's degree. So it almost made it a no-brainer, and then looking at the costs of that versus moving and trying to, get selected and chosen into another school, and then, all the new people, new friends I have to make, I have to learn the environment, just so many different things.
Yeah.
It was like, it's so much easier to just stay at Case Western. It's not like I had a problem with the school.
I see.
So it was like only one more year I did the BSMS program. And I mean, honestly, it's basically like a normal master's program. It's just accelerated because, as an advanced student, you can kind of do two things at once. So I was able to double classes and take extra like master's courses during my bachelor's that last year.
I see. So that means that, does that mean that you graduated a year earlier? Maybe you did the whole program in 5 years, the bachelor's and the master's?
I did it in 5 years.
Interesting.
So I was able to get a year ahead. Then if I went to another school, I'd probably have to do like a 2-year program.
Yes.
And some of those credits don't transfer. Like if I had a class at Case and like it could count for their master's at another school, I'd have to retake some courses too.
Yeah.
To kind of make up for what that lost credit that wasn't able to transfer. So yeah, I mean, it kind of made it a no-brainer, and Case is really good about that BSMS and continuing like higher education. So everything was there. It made sense.
Interesting, man.
And you were there too.
Yep.
So.
I mean, I did my master's there with you as well. Was your master's the thesis?
I did a thesis. My thesis was over 100 pages long.
Oh my goodness.
And deep learning for sensor fusion.
Whoa.
So, yeah.
Who was your thesis advisor?
So that was Wyatt Newman. So
Okay.
Dr. Wyatt Newman. Very renowned in AI and mechanical engineering, computer science, robotics, all that kind of stuff. So there was a robotics lab, and I did a lot of work there with him for his robotics courses for the higher level education.
Yeah.
And then I was a TA actually for a deep learning course.
Wow.
That we offered because we had the knowledge and the expertise. So we were able to offer that for a few semesters.
Yeah.
And then, so he was my advisor for that and linked me up with a company called Bendix, Commercial Vehicle Systems. And that, that helped sponsor a lot of the work I did going forward. But it was, over 100 pages I wrote on there. And that's available on the internet. Deep learning for sensor fusion.
Okay, so that's what your thesis was about.
Yeah,
I
for
see.
Commercial vehicles, so tractor trailers, 18-wheelers. There's a bunch of sensors on them, and how do you make sense of them? How do you know you're tracking the right object or vehicle at once using deep learning?
Using deep learning.
Yeah.
Interesting. So what are some of the, I guess, core math that came into play when you were doing that research?
Oh, I mean, there's a lot of linear algebra in there, a lot of matrix math for sure in there, a lot of neural networks and all of that kind of AI stuff that you hear of now. It's a huge buzzword today, and it kind of was back then. Back then they were talking about self-driving cars and stuff. Tesla was just getting into it. And back then everything was supposed to be self-driving by 2020. Yeah. So I thought, by then I won't have a job because it'll be all automated. And here we are 2023 and there's still no like autonomous cars.
Hey.
I mean, they're trying to get there, and I was trying to work on an effort like that for the trucking industry, and it's just the regulation and stuff kind of really slowed that down. But long story short, yeah, it's all deep learning, math, stuff like that. And then you have the statistics, linear algebra, matrix math, all that crazy stuff.
And I'm assuming this is going to be, I'm assuming that you were using Python perhaps?
Yeah, I was using Python. I used Torch for a bit there.
Okay.
And I think those were the two main ones. Maybe some C, C++ here and there for like the lightweight embedded implementation side of it.
Yeah.
We did some work on the Raspberry Pi, so that had to be really fast. So occasionally you do C, C++ for that. And in the robotics lab, we all use C++. There was no Python.
Yeah.
So
I hear like you can't like from the really, really hardcore, you know, software engineers, I would assume that you can't quite call yourself a software engineer unless like you know C++ or some C at least, right?
Yeah, you kind of have to know the fundamentals in this day and age. I mean, people get by knowing one or two languages and then they just learn it all online, and you can kind of pose as into that position and work for it for a couple years, but you know, eventually you'll get weeded out probably, unless you really learn what's under the hood of that.
I see.
So
I mean, you've used Java, Python, C++, as you know,
C++.
Yeah, as you've just mentioned. How closely would you say that Java is related to C++ or C?
I would say, I mean, Java is sort of a derivative of that mindset, but it's object-oriented and it has interfaces and things like that, and C isn't. So, and C++, it's closer related to it, being, you know, it can be object-oriented in C++ as well. You can have interfaces in C++ and all of that sort of stuff. So I would say those are pretty close, but performance-wise, you know, C++ just blows it out of the water from Java. But you know what's funny is a lot of the big data libraries and stuff that I use today, like Spark, Hadoop, all of that stuff.
Yeah.
It's actually using the JVM, which is the Java Virtual Machine. So it's under the hood, it's using a fundamental concept, an aspect of Java itself.
Okay.
So like in Java, the code's compiled down to bytecode and it runs on the JVM. And in like the big data processing libraries, the code actually, it's written in Python, so I'm using PySpark, and then that's kind of transpiled into Java and then into Scala and then it runs on the JVM.
Wow.
So it's still using that under the hood.
I see.
That's why it's important to know those fundamentals.
Okay.
Because one way or another, it's going back down to that at the low level. Like even a lot of the Python stuff and the machine learning stuff is using C under the hood or C++, and a lot of the graphical, like the GPU processing code is using C, C++, or they even have their own.
Well, is that why C's performance is, you know, so great compared to Python, because, you know, it's so close to bytecode? Or, I mean, what's the
I mean, there's a few different things. It is compiled. Python is interpreted. So Python, it kind of runs it on the fly and interprets the code as it goes. So there could actually be an error on line 80 and it's only interpreted up to line, you know, let's say 50, and it hasn't found that error yet, so it still continues successfully until it hits that error. Whereas in a compiled language, it'll be run the compiler and it'll find the error during the compilation. So it's not even running the code yet, and it finds the error.
Oh, I see.
So, but yeah, it's usually easier to get down to that low level from C. It could be compiled into assembly or whatever, whereas Python's got to go through a few different layers to get there, and by the time it runs, it really takes extra time to do that, like on the fly.
Okay.
So
finishing the master's and getting your first job, do you remember maybe the experience surrounding that? I mean, how did you secure your first job, and what was the process like?
Yeah, so the first job was, I mean, there was a process to get to that. But it really stemmed from the thesis work that I had done. And with that work, there was companies out there like looking for engineers, especially in data science, or at the time it was all deep learning. Now we're kind of calling it data science. But in deep learning, machine learning, all of that, and working with robotics and vehicle data and stuff. So there was companies looking for that. And that's how I got my first job, because of the thesis work that I did. I kind of transitioned into a position that was looking at a lot of that data, that was working with those sorts of algorithms and the things that actually were doing that on the road 24/7 in vehicles.
Yeah.
And they said, hey, how about this? This is what it actually is. What can you do with this? And what can we make sense and make money off of this, basically?
Wow.
You know, can we as office users kind of use the data coming off the vehicles to make money for the business and put more money into this whole, you know, automated vision that we have?
I see.
So they were looking for engineers like that, like crazy. I guess it was hard to find them that were really good, you know, top level engineers.
Yeah.
But they said, hey, we have basically a data center and a team out in California, in Irvine, that, you know, would you be willing to entertain that opportunity? Because, you know, you could stay here in Ohio and work here, or you can go out there and work with them out there.
Yeah.
And, I said, I'd love to go out to Irvine, California. That sounds great.
I know, man. So they were willing to give you that remote role from the jump?
No, they relocated me out to California.
Okay.
And they said, as long as you stay here 2 years, then you don't have to pay any of that back.
Oh, okay.
So that's where I was like, that's a no-brainer. Yet again, another no-brainer kind of fell into my lap.
Right,
and
yeah.
I was like, oh, definitely, I'd love to go to Irvine, California. And so we relocated. It was just me at first, and then my girlfriend at the time came out a little bit later. But yeah, kind of established ground zero out here.
Yeah.
And started working that job, and was doing a lot of interesting things. And then, you know, other things changed, and I went to another job and moved forward. But
I see, man.
Got a lot of experience there.
What has been the software engineering interview process been like? Because a lot of people talk about, say, if you talk about FAANG companies, you know, they said that the interview process for FAANG companies are terribly hard, right? They're known to be notoriously challenging. For instance, a company like Google, right? They could ask you any random question on the fly. They're not necessarily looking to get a correct answer, but the way you approach the problem is, you know, sometimes what they're looking for.
Oh, yeah.
Did you feel like, I mean, have you gone through a similar experience? And if not, you know, what experiences have you been through?
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I kind of tried to avoid those big companies because I'm sick of hearing about them. Everyone's trying to go to Google. I'm like, I don't want to be that guy.
At Case, I mean, every software engineer or computer
Yelp
scientist, that you talk to, everybody wanted to be at Google. Yeah, but go ahead.
Pretty much all my roommates wanted to go to Yelp or Microsoft.
Yeah.
And then they did.
Okay.
I don't know if they still, I think a few of them still work at Microsoft and stuff, but anyway, I was like the antithesis of that. I didn't want to go to a big company like that. I wanted to go to more of a startup company. So I've worked for mostly that type of company until my most recent client. That's a large company, but that was more like based on financial choices because this economy is not that great right now. But anyhow, long story short, so the interviewing process, I mean, I usually coast through it, honestly.
Okay.
For me, it's not hard.
It's not hard at all?
People look at it differently. People look at it like, you know, it's, you know, if I don't pass this, then I'm a failure or something. But you have to look at it with confidence. You have to prepare. Obviously, get sleep.
Okay.
Know what you're talking about. Don't go in and just know you're faking it. Like, don't do that. They're gonna catch you. Maybe before a couple years ago, you could get away with it, but these days they'll catch you. Unless, that's another thing. My neighbor's a recruiter, and he's actually had people using like AI, like deep fake, basically, giving a video interview, and they're not even like the person. It looks like the person they're interviewing is there on the video, but then behind the scenes there's some other guy, some like tech guy that's answering the questions.
Oh my goodness.
And it's like translating their voice to this other person's voice and using other video, and there's like a lag there, and he's like, you know, they're wondering if it's real or fake, and if the lag is because they're internet, and they blame it on the internet and stuff, but they're actually using like ChatGPT and AI and that kind of like deep fake to like fake some of these interviews and get in the door.
That's ridiculous.
So it's gonna get really hard out there for anyone going into software, AI, any of those kind of jobs, because they're gonna start looking for stuff where like, is this even a real person here?
Yeah.
You know?
Interesting, man. If you hadn't, you know, brought that up, man, I don't think, you know, I would have imagined how far, you know, people would go to to fake.
They want to make that money.
Competence.
They want to make that, you know, that 6-figure salary, and then they don't want to even know what they're talking about.
I know, man.
How are you supposed to do your job? Like, you can use these techniques and these AI services and stuff to some extent, but I mean, I've even tried to use ChatGPT just for work and stuff, and
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe like up to 50% of the time you'll get like a half right answer, and the other half is like, can't use that.
So I mean, because you've used ChatGPT, I'm pretty sure you're also aware of ChatGPT's hallucination. Has that happened to you? Because sometimes you could ask ChatGPT, was George Bush ever, you know, maybe say the blank president, and ChatGPT will sell you a story and, you know, tell you how maybe George Bush was the 25th president, even though George Bush was nowhere near maybe even the 25th president, right?
Yeah.
Has that happened to you?
No, I mean, to some extent with some things, yeah. So I don't ask it random questions. I know a lot of people try to test it out.
Yeah.
So I haven't really done that too much. I've watched YouTube videos when they do that, and they're like, well, let me ask it this, or let me ask it some explicit thing and see if it tells me, and it usually doesn't. But yeah, ChatGPT, I mean, the way it's working, it kind of goes back to some of that research I did for my thesis.
Okay.
Some of those models with the deep learning.
Yeah.
It's using the LLMs, and they have this context size for the window, and the larger that grows, the more it looks back in time of the history.
Mm-hmm.
And so the smaller the window, it's going to have more concise information that based on what you're asking it, but it also bases its answers on your input to it too. So if you're talking about maybe some kind of fictional story or something, it might use that as input to generate an output.
Okay.
And be like, oh, he was talking about fiction, so he doesn't really care about the truth.
Right.
And then you're asking it what president it is, or what, you know, what number president this was, and it'll be like, well, let me make up a fairy tale, if it's, you know, so like, but if you give it the right information in the context window, and you say like, no, like seriously, give me the cold hard facts, like what's the truth? Is this president, or is that wrong? Or, you know, what's your perspective? It'll actually give you a better answer.
Okay.
So there's been times when I've asked questions and basically it's giving me a bad answer. I'm like, no, like cut the BS here, give me the right answer. And then it actually gets to the right answer.
Interesting,
like,
man.
you kind of got to work it and talk to it like it's a worker sometimes.
Yeah, you got to work with it, huh? Interesting.
But, the one downside of that is that I'm worried about is that people are going to start believing whatever that puts out, like a Google or something.
Yeah.
But Google's based on actually things that are posted, not all factual, but there's a lot of facts out there.
Yeah.
And people aren't going to go so much in the hassle of posting just completely fake websites with completely fake articles. Now, obviously, with AI coming up, that's even harder to weed out. But before, it was when you Google something, you're probably getting more factual or fact-based evidence and results.
Yeah.
Now with ChatGPT, it's literally generating this text based on whatever it knows and based on the numeric like probabilities under the hood of like, well, based on this word and that, I'm gonna have a probability of like, this is the sentence I need to generate. So it doesn't really know if that's factual or not.
Okay.
It's just going based on math under the hood.
I see.
So how do you translate math to facts?
Right.
That's a really hard
Yeah, I was gonna
game to
ask you,
play.
man, like, you know, how fast or how quickly do you think they will iterate through updates, you know, to get it to the point where it's able to check itself, fact check itself?
And that's where
and the output.
the newer GPT models that they have, which are all like paid versions and stuff like that, they can search the internet, and that would most likely help a lot for a lot of the problems that we currently face with the free version, at least. But you know, like I said, if AI is generating stuff on the internet, and then it's spamming the internet with all of this fake content as well, and then ChatGPT crawls the internet to get facts, and it's fake, then it's still got that huge problem of like, this isn't even the truth.
I see.
So AI is only limited basically by the data that's the input, and if, you know, the garbage in, garbage out principle. So if you have bad data going in, and that's a majority of it, then it's going to learn that, hey, I got to generate stuff like that, and it's not real. It could be all fake. So
I see.
That's the concern. We have to have people to be able to actually vet that information and give it vetted information and not just give it anything off the internet.
Okay. So being a computer scientist, who's actually worked in a field, an AI, sector, what area do you think is going to be exponentially impacted by this influx of AI that we're seeing?
Well, I think actually this is going to be like a mutual relationship here. But I think quantum computing is the next big area in computer science, and I'm actually starting to look into that more in my free time.
Okay.
So I think that AI is starting people down that path even more so to look into quantum computing, because they want to do like all of this training and get all these results from all of this. I mean, we're well beyond terabytes. It's like, I don't even know, you can't even really classify how much data is in the world probably right now. Word, but all of that data basically, and it's growing in the world. They want to crunch that in seconds. So like quantum computing can do stuff like that, but our current computing techniques, it takes weeks or months to like train some of these models.
Even with a supercomputer?
Well, they're cutting it down, but it costs so much money to run. So it's like, do we have the funding to run all that?
Yeah.
If you have unlimited funding and resources, then you probably could use supercomputing and get it down a magnitude, but quantum computing blows supercomputers out of the water still. Because quantum computing has these qubits, and I
did my research on that. My master's thesis was all about
so I don't
quantum
have to
computing.
Go into it, but that's really where I think that computer science is going to head, and AI is going to further drive companies to go down that realm, and then engineers are going to see, and they're going to start being attracted to it. And then by the time it gets to the mainstream media, and you got that, it all over, kind of like it is with ChatGPT right now. But once it goes like that with quantum computing, then everyone's going to know about it. It'll be a little bit late at that point, but I think that that's the next hot area. And I'm seeing more software and things coming out more.
Yeah.
Bringing it down more to the consumer. I mean, it's still not there yet, but it's not only like Google and Intel right now. It's like there's smaller companies getting into quantum computing, looking into it.
And a number of institutions also really doing the groundwork. Yeah, for the qubits. People are exploring, using superconducting. Yeah, superconductors.
Superconductors.
Yep, to build qubits and loop-in superconductors, and then other people are also using all sorts of methods, using the lattice of an atom, the defects, within, say, a diamond. Artificially grown diamond, and then manipulating those defects or the electrons and those and the lattice of the material to build the qubits. So all sorts of ways we're approaching a problem from different angles. It'll be interesting to see how fast or how quickly we build something that we can provide to the consumers. My opinion, I still think we're like really far off. But with all these institutions and companies, working on it, I mean, you'd be surprised how creative the human mind can be.
Yeah, I think we'll get there. I mean, I think it'll be within our lifetimes, hopefully, that we'll have something that the consumer can use with quantum computing, but that gives us a long runway for careers. So
yeah. I mean, we definitely need quantum computers, man. I can't even emphasize that enough, because if we have quantum computers, man, like we could have done some sort of simulation to get an idea of what medicine or what materials we can combine to build a medicine to, combat cancer, diabetes, and all these other issues that we're currently facing. So it'll be interesting to see, what comes
Weather.
about. Yes, right. The global warming.
Finally, something that can take all those variables and all those data points into consideration and make sense out of it without having they had data from this country and that country in a different part of the world, and they determined this, and in the US maybe we're looking at North America, but we're probably not looking over at Europe or Asia or any Africa. We're not looking probably at all those weather patterns. We're probably just looking at North America. But at the quantum computer level, it can look at all of that and say this is the world forecast. And I know every second what's going on, and it can process that.
Man, that'll be interesting. But then again, that would also help us build better encryptions and better blockchains.
Yeah, that is one of the side effects. So the downside of quantum computing is that blockchain as we know it might be defunct. I mean, it might be called blockchain. I don't know if they're going to keep that name, but basically all of those encryption techniques, even with Bitcoin, it could be broken probably by quantum computing.
By quantum computer in a matter of perhaps seconds.
That's another timing game that we're going to have to watch out for.
Yeah.
Anyone in crypto.
Hey, but who knows? Maybe even quantum computers could help cryptos build better blockchain systems.
Oh yeah, we can use quantum computing to build better blockchain systems as we know them. It's probably going to be something different.
Yeah.
But because the technology is far superior to what we know.
Yeah.
So we don't have to do goofy things like we did for blockchain to get
I
to
know,
work.
man. But so the other question would be, with all these different technologies, like proliferating, we talked about quantum computers, AI, and now we're even, briefly touched on blockchains. If you were to go back, and this is a hypothetical question, man. If you were to go back as a young man, starting case again, what direction, do you think you would go to now?
I mean, funny enough, I probably would have got more into crypto and blockchain. Because at that time, it just seemed like a joke. It was like, oh, you're gonna have digital money. Why not have the physical money? What's the point in this?
Yeah.
And then it's like, okay, security. And then it's like, okay, well, you have the digital aspects, so you can integrate it into apps and things easier. But there was a lot of roadblocks I felt there at first, and it wasn't convincing enough to me and my peers and stuff like that. There was a few people at Case that were doing it. Yeah. They were mining Bitcoin. I actually bought a GPU for one of the guys. He was one of our roommates.
Yeah.
That he was mining Bitcoin back in 2012 and 2013, and I thought he was crazy. Because his room was 90 degrees, and he always had his computers. Fans were at 100% and everything.
Oh,
I was like,
goodness.
what are you doing, man? And I think even Case, the RA was our electricity bills through the roof.
Oh my goodness.
And they had to tell him what are you doing? You can't do that here.
Wow.
But I thought he was crazy at the time, and lo and behold, that was Bitcoin was at, I don't know, dollars. I don't remember at the time in 2013.
Wow, can you imagine how much Bitcoin or how many Bitcoin he managed to mine around that time?
Oh, he probably had at least 6 figures worth of Bitcoin.
Oh my
at that
goodness.
time, and he was mining it right on I think he had 1 or 2 AMD GPUs.
Using the school's electricity,
using the school's
man.
electricity and network. He had his own computer, and he just brought it in. He was just a student, and he was mining Bitcoin. And,
wow.
I'm sure there was a few select people doing that, but at Case it was happening. I just kind of just went to him and I don't know what you're doing. I'm gonna go out and have friends. But looking back, I should have been doing that too. I mean, we could have still been friends and hung out, had lunch and everything.
Exactly.
But I'd be mining Bitcoin too.
You'd be a hella richer now.
And then I wouldn't even need to worry about that. But,
exactly.
That is the one thing, going back, I was like, oh man, I was there at the time. I was watching it being done, and I just didn't have any, it didn't appeal
click
to me.
Yeah.
It didn't click. What is the point in this?
I know.
So I think looking back, it's just got to be a visionary with whatever you're doing. It's if you think there could be something there, you got to think 5, 10 years, even 15 years in the future. Where could this go? Is this possible, or is this a complete fallacy? And with the blockchain and Bitcoin especially, I mean, I own Bitcoin now too. I don't know if you do, but I'm an investor in that, and I'm now I believe in it more than ever, in Bitcoin itself. But back then, again, I wish I can go back and
I know, right?
Switch and be like, nope, I'm with him. I'm gonna start mining Bitcoins. I don't care what it takes.
Yeah.
I'll use that Case Computer Lab. There's some people using that. But
man, oh man.
That's probably the biggest one. And then I don't know where it would go from there. If you have so much money, you might not even need a job at that point.
Yeah.
But I'm glad that I got the experience that I did. I probably would have went in a totally different direction.
I see.
To be honest, I might have been doing more research. Might have been doing more quantum computing research then at that point, after I got rich off of Bitcoin.
Yeah, I mean, because quantum computing and superconductors seem to be, at least in physics, hardcore, physics, they seem to be the 2 holy grail problems of our day, right?
Yeah, the superconducting. We were working on the
superconductors, high temperature superconductors, man. Could you imagine the level of applications that would be unleashed if that were to be, if someone made that breakthrough, right? I always read articles online about, a team in Japan, a team in this country, has managed to make a breakthrough in high temperature superconductors. But then you read into the story and it's like, oh, they did it at an extremely high pressure. So I'm like, well, I mean, ambient conditions don't have those high pressures, and so that's not really going to be practical, is it?
Yeah.
So
you need it at room temperature.
Exactly, bro. So I've been let down several times, but I know. Well, I can't say I know. I'm hoping that some team, cracks the code. If a team cracks the code, man, I think that the level of application that it'll unleash would be absolutely mind-blowing.
Yeah, we could do a lot with transportation, especially. That's the industry I've been really heavily focused in.
Yeah.
And
transmission of electricity also without any losses.
Transmission of electricity.
Yep.
Well, that's another industry I've been focused. Energy.
Yep. Could you imagine transmitting electricity from point A to point B without any energy loss at all?
Yeah.
No
friction or anything.
That would be amazing.
That would be amazing. Transportation, though, I'm really thinking like you can use that. Like there would be no friction involved. Parts wouldn't be wearing out or anything.
Exactly.
And there would be
the trains
no noise.
would hover. They would hover, right?
It would be quiet.
It'll be quiet. They will literally levitate.
Yeah, it would levitate. The only trick, and they would be able to solve this again with physics, but keeping it on the path.
On a track,
yeah.
Oh, they could. They could.
It's
all it's all magnetism. So right, they would just have to. I mean, they could. I mean, that's not a problem.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if they could crack the superconductor
code
at room temperature, they can crack.
They could definitely crack that one.
And that's where AI too could come in too. If you had the right sensors, then AI could help guide whatever the vehicle was. But
interesting, man.
Superconductor physics, yeah.
I like that. You've been living out here for quite some time. Since 2017.
Yeah, 6 years. Yeah.
What's the differences, at least that stands out to you, from living in California? And
you got a lot of successful people out here, and I know there are people elsewhere, but out here it's like everyone's got to be successful for the most part that I'm dealing with. Because, again, everyone talks about it, but high costs out here, and just like, more risk, more rewards. So you pay more, but you get paid more.
Yeah.
And there's a lot more reward to kind of taking that risk and coming out, stepping outside of your boundaries, not just staying at home in that small town like where I grew up.
Mm-hmm.
My parents always kind of helped push me out the door and say, hey, go out there. There's so much more in the world. Don't just stay here.
Yeah.
I know I have a lot of friends back home. They lived and will probably die in their hometown. But, I wanted to get out and explore. And I would say, out here is like there's so much more opportunity. And there's more people to meet and to start businesses with, or just to become lifelong friends with and stuff like that. I think there's a lot of really good opportunity. And these people travel and they're worldly people. They're not just like, what's in my small town's the only thing in the world. It's like they consider a lot of different perspectives when they're doing anything.
Okay.
When they even speak about any of their views on things, they're like very considerate of others. They're not just very what do they call it? Short term or tunnel vision.
Okay.
Yeah, they're not tunnel vision out here. They're more considering like everyone.
I see. And for as long as I've known you, you've always had an entrepreneurial sort of mindset, right? I remember back in freshman year, that's almost all we talked about, starting companies and
I've already had a couple
riding off into the sunset at some point, right?
Yeah.
Do you still maintain that mindset? And if so, what sort of things have you been considering of late?
Yeah, I mean, I'm coming back to that again. I wanted to establish the ground out here. I think I've done a great job at this point. And I would like to go back into entrepreneurship at some point. It's just, what is the right opportunity? Do I want to carve that path, or is someone else gonna start a company and then invite me to it?
Yeah.
Or is something else going to come up with a big company behind it where it's like NVIDIA research, or is it even in medical or energy field or transportation, or what is it going to be? And so I'm still trying to figure out what exactly I want to put all that time into.
Yeah.
But I've been doing it along the way, and haven't found what I wanted yet. So I still have that drive to do it.
Yeah. Just exploring.
It's just exploring, really.
Okay.
I like exploring. Going on adventures. You never know what you're going to find. And sometimes when you wait and be patient, you get something better than if you just jumped in right now to something. Just to, make a quick buck or something. It's
Patience is a virtue, man.
Patience is a virtue, yeah, definitely.
Yes.
And that's one of the most important skills I've learned with moving out here.
Yeah.
There's traffic, there's a lot going on, everyone's about themselves and stuff, and you gotta just be patient. It's like, I don't have to get there 5 seconds ahead of time, but then risk a huge major pile-up accident. Like, I'll just wait 5 seconds, they'll go in front of me, whatever, and then I'll go and take my turn, and I might end up watching them, having something happen to them, and I'm back here just cruising, minding my own business. So that's kind of where I'm at with what I'm doing with the entrepreneurial side of things. Yeah. But if that right opportunity comes along, or if I all of a sudden have an awe-inspiring idea, like I can apply quantum computing with this and that, and like it just comes to fruition, then I might just pursue it off the cuff and do it and be like, this is the right time. Because I do feel like this is a good time for me to do something like that. I see. And take it seriously.
Interesting. Also wanted to say congratulations, man. So you recently, tied a knot with your college sweetheart, man. How was that like, man?
Yeah, thanks for bringing that up. Thank you. And thanks for coming to the wedding.
Hey, man, I couldn't miss it for the world. Like I told you, man, at the wedding, bro. Yeah. I couldn't miss it. If I was in Africa, I'd have still, come back for the wedding.
That would have been awesome. But either way, great to have you. And a lot of the crew from Case Western was there, so that was great.
Yes, sir.
Married life is fantastic for me right now. Everyone's like, oh, yeah, just wait and see. And I'm just like, I don't know. We've been together almost 10 years now. And, I love her more than anyone. And she's my best friend. Yeah. So never can let that go. Always got to communicate and make compromises where necessary. But, don't stop being yourself, and same thing to her. She can never stop being herself. Don't really change or anything like that. Just be best friends, basically. Okay. You know how best friends are. You don't know, not everyone always gets their way, but you work through everything, and the teamwork makes the whole dream work. So
exactly, dog.
We always have that mindset with our relationship in general now, especially the marriage, is like teamwork makes the dream work. So
fantastic.
If she doesn't do something, then I do it, and if I don't do something, she does it. But it gets done, and it's a game of balance, and we do it. So it's been great so far.
I like that, man.
I don't have any issues.
So the venue for the wedding, Temecula. I mean, this place was absolutely beautiful, man. Emilio, myself, Daniel, Fred, we just, we drove out there, we saw those vineyards. I'm like, man, where is Shaun doing this wedding? This is beautiful, man.
Yeah, we kind of figured out that Temecula was a nice place when during COVID. Yeah. So I don't even know if we could say that on here, but when that happened in 2020 and everything was locked down, and in Irvine, LA, you probably saw on the news, just terrible news coming out of that area in LA. Orange County, they were like tracking whether or not you can go outside tomorrow and stuff, and they were like, there was some points where you couldn't, like they locked the beaches, you couldn't even go to the beach, you couldn't do anything. And we're like, what is this? And then we're paying these outrageous like rents and fees for things out here, and the food went through the roof too. And we're just like, what's going on? So anyway, we wanted to get out and have like a mini vacation, sort of a staycation, but we were able to drive, we could drive up to 2 hours, and that wasn't a big deal. So we discovered that, hey, right next door, basically a 1.5 to 2 hour drive is Temecula from Irvine. And so we were able to get away in Temecula. It's more like the countryside, and they're very like lenient with their restrictions, and they weren't really worried about COVID. A lot of the seating and stuff is outside.
Yeah.
You know, the wind blows, stuff like that. So there's, you know, it's less likely that that COVID would be really an issue. There's not like a mass population and all that. So we went out there and we started tasting the wine, and we found out like, hey, the people are nice out here. The wine tastes good. It's a close drive from home, and we started doing it more frequently. And it's super scenic out there. You know, every other acre is like a vineyard basically.
Yeah.
So, and then you come to find out like there's like movie stars and other TV shows and stuff that they were filming and stuff out there. Like there was one thing for the History Channel, they were filming in Temecula at like a training facility and stuff that was there, and the backdrop was like, oh, we saw that from the vineyard we were at last week. Like,
Yeah.
so I started realizing like this is a hidden gem basically in this area. So it's I believe it's in Riverside County there, but yeah, I mean Temecula, it's a great wine country. That's the closest place to Orange County that we can get what we want it.
Fantastic,
And
man.
very lenient restrictions.
Yes,
very
sir.
down to earth people. Easy going.
Yeah.
We just kind of fell in love with it.
I like that. I like that, man. So I guess my next question then would be, you know, for a single guy like myself, I mean, you managed to do, I mean, something that we've all been trying to do, you know, and to do it with your college sweetheart, I mean, that's like mind blowing, bro. So what advice do you have for me and all the other single guys who are going to be watching this YouTube video and thinking, man, how do I find my, you know, my soulmate, just like you recently found yours, man?
Oh yeah.
What advice do you have for us, man?
I mean, the first thing I would say is never stop trying.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you stop trying anything, and that whether it's relationships, for a career, for that thing that you're passionate about, once you stop trying, you failed. So just don't stop trying. And you know, you can take a break, but never stop. And the next thing would be to don't fall for anyone. Don't just go for the first person that you think, oh, she's so pretty, even like this or that about her, like on the outside. Get to know her, get down into the inside, and try to find those vulnerable moments and stuff, and try to be with her during those, and understand her better, and see like, is this really what I want to deal with for the rest of my life? Can I do that? Am I capable? Sir. You know, ask yourself as a person, am I capable of dealing with this with her in her most vulnerable moments? Can I do that and still be stable and not be like also, you know, going crazy? So like things like that, and then also try to like have some good time with her, and go exploring and stuff, and see if she likes what you like, or if she doesn't, and if you're opposites, that's fine too. Opposites also attract. I mean, there's things between her and I that, you know, different things like certain types of music where I love this and she doesn't like that, but then she likes that. And then over time, you know, hearing it both sides, we start both liking it. And sometimes I like her music now, I'm listening to that. And then she's fine listening to my music. And I mean, things like that. There's so many other things, but you know, try to have some commonalities and things you agree on, but differences are okay too.
I like that.
I mean, the list goes on, for sure. You got to be on the same kind of level mentally, understanding wise. You know, make sure you can communicate. Like I said, that's a key.
Wow, man.
Communicate.
The
language
whole
barrier.
Man. All this talk, man. I'm like, bro, man, you guys are lucky, bro. Man, oh man.
It goes on and on.
I had no clue, man. Like, you become a teddy bear, bro. This is loving, man. It's like, this is dope. But anyways, let's wrap this up. Any takeaways, you know, from all the conversations that we've had, you know, from going to K's, the classes that you took, and then branching out, well, I wouldn't even say branching out, but, you know, translating to getting a job and working at the jobs, and some of the projects that you've been exposed to from entrepreneurship and everything that you've been, you know, you've done up to now. What advice or what takeaways, you know, would you have? Maybe 1 or 2 bullet points about life, you know, that you've come to learn in all these years of experience.
So yeah, I mean, if you get an urge and you feel like I have to take action, then just do it. Just like Nike it. That's what I say. And I don't even know if I can say that now, but just do it. That's been my motto. Even at work, it's like, if I didn't get permission to do something necessarily, or they alluded to it, and you know, me and maybe a few other people feel that it's the right decision to make, and people are like, man, you just got to do that. Just do it. Like, even if you don't have people there and you're like, okay, should I go? Like, for example, there was a concert up in San Bernardino, and that's about at least an hour drive from Irvine. And it was for one of my favorite bands, Tool. And I was like, I didn't buy the ticket yet, right? And it was the day of, and I go, should I go? And then I kept asking myself, should I go? Should I go? Should I go? I'm like, oh, it's so much money, and I'm gonna have to take an Uber or whatever. And it was like, and I did it. I went up, I had a blast. I mean, my phone died and I had to pay a driver there on site and stuff. I mean, it wasn't perfect, right? But nothing is perfect in life. But I had a blast, and I've always referred back to that concert, and people were like, whoa, you saw Tool up in San Bernardino? Like, that's like a monumental concert. And I was like, dude, I literally bought the ticket the day of, like an hour and a half before that show, and got the Uber and went up. And yeah, it was a traffic jam. It wasn't perfect. I might have got there 2 songs late or something, but they weren't on yet. It was like one of the opening acts and stuff, but I didn't have any regrets at that point. I just went and did it. So that's a great example of, out here, you just kind of got to go, and anywhere you are, just go and do it if you feel like if you're going to regret not doing it.
I see.
So that's one of the big things, and patience as well. Like, if you're like, if there's something where you can go and do it today, but if you do it tomorrow, it might be better, and it's possible to do it tomorrow as well, then maybe wait. Think about it more, think through it more, and do it tomorrow. Obviously, the concert was that day. I had to do it that day.
Right.
That was it was make or break moment. But some things where it's like, going out and buying this, or going and doing that, or maybe I want to quit my job and get another job, but right now the economy's not doing so great. Don't just quit your job and not have a job. Like, plan that out better. You can be patient, wait on that one. Strategize. Maybe you'll even change your mind within a couple of days and say, well, I wanted to change it to this, but now I wanted to change it to that. And so you still have a job, you're still making money, and you can still, live life normally, and then you can change with more of a plan. So, 2 takeaways there. One is take action if you feel like it's right, and it's got to be in that moment. The other one's be patient. If you can do it tomorrow and it's not going to be a big deal, it might be better off to just wait, plan it out better.
I like that, man. And
and it's knowing to decide which one is this like a do it now type of thing, or is this can wait? Prioritization of everything, really.
I see, man. Hey, man, there's no better place to end it, man, than here. So Shaun, bro, thanks for coming through. I know, out here in California, the weather's great. You probably got stuff to do. You're newlywed. You gotta, so yeah. Thanks for making the time and for showing up, man. And
really appreciate it, Sylvester.
Yeah, man.
Great as usual.
Yes, sir. Thank you.